What does pride mean to me? To me, on the one hand, it's the opposite of shame. So it's all about self-acceptance and kind of working against internal and external structures that tell you that you're not good or you're not good enough because you're not fitting into certain categories or norms, right?
Pride, to build on what you were saying, is about family. A lot of us, particularly in the queer community, we get to choose our family, oftentimes because our biological families might reject us.
Right.
And in that choosing, there's something so powerful and so fundamentally human around finding community and finding that kind of safe space where you can flourish and really achieve your true potential.
But on the other hand, I think it's a really important, it's an occasion to remember, to remind oneself and to familiarize oneself with the ongoing struggles that are still very much present beyond one's own bubble.
But what we can't forget is that sometimes even within our own family, we might not be as accepting as we should of each other.
I sometimes think the term lgbtQ+, whatever all the letters that are now being added to it, there are so many differences because there's so many different identity aspects. It's about sexuality, sexual attraction, preferences, potentially. It's about whether you feel sexually attraction at all and under which circumstances, but then it's about gender, and it can be about your body in terms of sex chromosomes. And so there are so many different identities, but I think, as you said earlier, focusing on what unites us is really helpful, that we come together and that we are all together experiencing still non-normativity around our identities. And that will, of course, shape how others interact with us. So, yeah, I think it's sometimes challenging because there's so many differences and nuances to identities linked to that acronym. But I like to focus on being united and similarities, as you said.
Something that I really enjoyed when I first moved to the UK in 2004 was that, I came from a very conservative world, but coming here and having everybody refer to their other half as their partner is a very non-gender specific way. And in my mind, I thought, is it a male partner? Is it a female partner? Is it an other partner? What is going on? Everyone's got partners. So it was really interesting is that people didn't feel the need to say my girlfriend or boyfriend, my husband or wife, or it was just my significant other, but specifically partner. And I love that because it shouldn't matter what gender or how you identify what your partner is or is not. It's just the fact that you have someone who is your other half. And maybe perhaps you have multiple other halves. So something else that I discovered about meeting people who are in trios and moresomes and polyamorous. So there's this beautiful spectrum of all different ways that we live our lives. And I think that the numbers that say we're X percentage of the population are a lie. If everybody were truly honest with themselves, I would think that the majority of us are somewhere on the spectrum as opposed to fitting only in one category.
So I also moved to the UK from somewhere else. So I'm not local in that sense. I'm Austrian. And sometimes, now experiencing the UK and Cambridge specifically, it just puts what I've known before in perspective and makes me aware of some of these limitations of what I even could imagine.
Definitely. And it's so important to the experience in Cambridge as well. That's exactly what I found because I came out in Cambridge. I hadn't realized. I always knew that there was something different about me. The signs were there, obviously, but there's something I quite suppressed because of cultural and just environmental reasons. It was a safety mechanism. I was bullied, etc., like so many of us have been. And then coming to Cambridge is the first time where I felt free because my only experience had been either being home in a very religiously conservative environment where I grew up, or going to school in New Orleans, which was very hyper liberal and very kind of out and very kind of radical, and not knowing where I fit in because I kept thinking to myself, well, obviously I feel different inside and I was suppressing it. But then when I went to these more kind of radical out like pride, and I didn't feel I felt it fit in there either. So I kind of fell between the cracks. I was thinking, well, I don't know who I am. And then coming to Cambridge, people just took me as a person. And it was the first time in my life I've ever experienced someone just looking at me as, oh, you're Jason, that's great. Tell me about yourself. And there's something about the culture here, that individualism and eccentricism, and you're allowed to have all these facets to your personality, whereas where I grew up, you are very much put into a bucket. Like you're either X or Y, you're either A or B.
Yeah.
And that was so refreshing. It blew my mind. And it created a safe environment where I could actually explore and discover who I truly was.
I personally fight a bit against that idea that you're only good, a good queer, a good gay, if you are out, and that you're only living your true self if you're out. I mean, for many people, that's an experience they had, and it's lovely. But I also think we shouldn't just expect and demand outness and visibility, because I think we then forget what's at stake for many people still. But yes, visibility helps to creating a more safe environment. So it's a bit of a complex one, visibility. But yeah, I think if one is comfortable and feels safe to be out, I think one should, for oneself, but also for others.
This idea that somehow adding another layer of stress, typically coming from within our own community to other members of our community saying, you're not out, that means you're ashamed of who you are. You're not out, that means you're not a real gay, you're not real queer, you're not proud of who you are, is nonsensical.
Yes.
We should all be working towards a world where people can be as out and proud as they want to be.
Exactly.